What do you do when you're stuck behind a slow, smelly truck? You want to pass it. So he's trying to get around it, finally passes it. This truck is just going to take it so personally. So then the truck blasts past him. And then this starts off a whole big episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Because David Mann and the truck driver get extremely petty to the point where they need to murder each other. This truck driver is the definition of somebody looking for a problem. Like, he has nothing better to do than to mess with this guy.
He's probably a serial killer who's waiting for the first guy to piss him off. Like, in his head, he says, somebody give me a reason to murder you. And then once he gets his victim, it's lights out.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. We are back-to-back weeks because it's October, it's spooky season, it's scary time, and I don't know if you can tell by my environment, my decor, and my hat, but I love this season. I love Halloween, and I love this month for the podcast because we're coming at you hard. 5 weeks, 5 movies, all spooky, all scary, and I am one of your ghoulish hosts. I'm Captain Pop. I'm a maestro of the microwave. I'm one of the concession stand kids. I'm just a popcorn freak, a Frankenstein on that corn. And I can't be freaking on that corn without my best boy, buddy boy, best friend, best amigo, Nicholas Justice, as he's known simply around here as the corn dog himself. Maybe just the candy corn dog for this time.
Could be the candy corn dog. I was going to call myself the children of the corn dog. If we're sticking with some spooky movies here.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I know my boy over there loves himself some spooky season, and I'm just excited to go on this adventure with you through your favorite time of the year.
It's awesome. And it makes for great movie content because horror movies, thrillers, suspense stories, they're great. They're fun, and we're totally here for it. And we're continuing our trek along spooky season with a movie from 1971 called Duel, and it's Steven Spielberg's technically first feature film. So I'm excited to unpack all of that and get into it. But first, Nick, before we do, we got to hit up our weekly quiz, and we invite you guys to play along.
Yes, sir. So if you watch or listen to this podcast, you know that every single episode we play the Vulture Cinematrix movie quiz. The quiz is a 3x3 grid, so 9 total answers, 3 vertical categories, 3 horizontal categories, and you only get 9 guesses. And on this podcast, we stay perfect. First goal is to stay perfect. Second goal is to get as rare of answers as we can. That puts us into higher scores. I don't know if we'll ever be able to tie our best score, which is top 1% of quiz takers, but damn it, we're going to try.
No, we should be able to tie because we know movies and we're good at this, apparently, because we're on a 9-week streak. So this could be a perfect 10 for your boys. And Ooh. Yep, last time we did this, last week, it was a 1%. The thing we've been chasing all year. It's been the
chasing
white whale
that dragon
in the room, and we finally got it. And I'm hoping to at least continue the perfect streak. If not, go for a top single-digit percentage of players playing this game because we're the best, essentially. So, Nick, who do we have for our actors here?
Our actors for this quiz are going to be Penelope Cruz, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Jim Carrey.
Feeling good off those. Our categories this time around are going to be release date 2005 to 2014, character name and title, and Oscar-nominated film. I think we can continue this streak. What do you think, Nick?
I feel pretty good about this. Yeah. Rarity answers, not 100% sure on. Perfect answers, you betcha.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get this kicked off and started. Do you want to start with Penelope Cruz?
I would love to.
Okay. I know a couple movies because I feel like I don't know Penelope Cruz movies that much. I know she's in some Pirates movies, perhaps.
She's in one. She's in the fourth one, I believe. Fourth one.
She's in a movie called Blow, I believe, with Tom Cruise.
Yep, she's in another Tom Cruise one, which I know for a fact was Oscar nominated, which is Vanilla Sky, which will be my guess for Oscar nominated. And then one of my favorite movies, which I love adventure movies, with Matthew McConaughey, we have Sahara from 2005, and I know that year is correct. I'm 100% sure.
Do we have any for character name and title, however?
I have a singular one. It's a recent one. It's Ferrari with Adam Driver.
Oh.
That was her in there. So that Ferrari, right? It's the name. It's also the car, but that's the best one I have. I'm not, like you said, I'm not as well versed in Penelope Cruz movies. I believe she was in a Disney movie about a special forces team of hamsters called G-Force. I believe she voiced one in there.
Well, I think it's guinea pigs because that's the G.
That makes a lot more sense.
That'd be H-Force otherwise.
Yeah. But I'd rather just stick with Sahara here and call it a day.
Yeah, let's go with Sahara. I don't feel good about G-Force.
Nobody should. All right, Sahara, 8%. Okay.
Ocho, all right. All right, that is sweet. Let's move on over to character name and title. Let's hit up that fast car, Adam Driver, driving that Ferrari, because we're guessing Ferrari.
Ferrari it is. Okay.
And it's a 21.
21%.
Okay. Not bad. Now, let's hit up that chocolate rain, aka Vanilla Sky.
I'm guessing it's going to be high. 33%.
Okay. 33. Not bad. That's not bad. All right. Let's get rare here. Let's move down to our boy Jake Gyllenhaal. Oscar nom. We have Nightcrawler. Release date. I feel like that movie with Tobey Maguire brothers was maybe like 2011 or something.
Could be. He was also in one End of Watch.
End of Watch was another one. Don't know when Southpaw came out. That was an answer we used previously on a quiz.
Yeah.
Character name and title. Oh, Spider-Man.
Title. Well, okay, Spider-Man works. I was going to say Donnie Darko. Right, he's like his
Donnie Darko. That'd probably be a very popular one, but that is...
Another one that I don't know if it would count would be Zodiac.
Was that the fool's name?
He's the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, but I don't know if that would be a character name, you know?
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not sure about that one. But
wasn't
I
he
do
in
feel
Prisoners?
Yes, he was. The one with Hugh Jackman and
Paul Dano.
Yeah. That one came out.
Might be right after 2014 or like right on it. Maybe like right there, 2014, 2013.
Yeah, it would have been like 2013.
Okay.
Ish. I'd feel comfortable with one like End of Watch or one you had mentioned, Brothers, I think you said.
Yeah, I think that's like right in the middle of that release date window. Dealer's choice over there.
I'm going to go End of Watch for this one. See what we can get out of it. 3%.
That's what we can get out of that. Hell yeah. All right. Let's go.
Feeling a little better about this quiz. Character name and
title, however, Spider-Man's. Do you think No Way Home would count? Because I feel like they used archival footage in the kind of previously montage on Spider-Man because it worked.
Do you think he has a credit? Do you think he has a credit?
Nicholas Hoult apparently was credited for being in Furiosa just for showing the montage of the Fury Road footage in the credits. But then when I was guessing on a different quiz by myself for Michael Douglas, didn't count for Avengers Infinity War when he showed up in the post-credit scene. So I don't know. It's really just a roll of the dice here. But I'm thinking just for big brain play, that could work. But that would be... I would really just want to use that if we were confident we were going to get the tying 1%. But how do you feel about it?
I think we're a little past the 1% with Vanilla Sky and Ferrari. I think we chased the perfect on this.
All right, so Donnie Darko or No Way Home, or Far From Home.
I chose End of Watch, so dealer's choice back to you.
Let's go Spider-Man. I feel like Donnie Darko would be the higher one.
And it's Far From Home, right?
It's Far From Home.
That's right.
It's Mysterio. Okay. 23.
23%. I
All
like
right.
it.
I feel like Donnie Darko is going to be the most popular.
I'd think so, yeah.
Nightcrawler. Speaking of freaks on the prowl at night, I do love that movie just because it's so suspenseful. But I would go with Nightcrawler.
I like that. Nightcrawler it is at 24%.
24. That works. I was hoping for a little bit less there, but that's all good.
I'm not sure how many he has. That's what's hard with some of these actors. You know, there's really only 3 or 4 answers for some of these. So
that you know of.
Jim Carrey. I have a handful that work for release date and character name and title that are obscure, but I'm a big Jim Carrey fan. So let me hit you with 3 of the more obscure ones. Fun with Dick and Jane, Horton Hears a Who, and Mr. Popper's Penguins.
All good ones, because obvious ones are going to be Ace Ventura, probably How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yep.
Oh, what about
Bruce
do you
Almighty?
think the Cable Guy would count?
It should.
Like, is the Cable Guy his name? Or does he have an actual name? He probably has an actual name. That'd be a risky one, but it could work.
Yeah. I think character name and title, popular ones are going to be like Sonic, right? He was in the new Sonic the Hedgehog. So I think that's recency bias-wise. Truman Show as well, although that also, I believe, hits an Oscar nom. I believe The Mask got an Oscar nom for the makeup.
That could be a tricky one, because I think Eternal Sunshine is going to be the obvious one.
That's number one. And I think Truman Show got one, a nom as well.
If you're confident that The Mask got an Oscar nom, then I think that would be pretty good.
I feel like I've had that trivia question before. Not on this quiz, but knowing that The Mask got an Oscar nom. But let's start filling these out. So release date, I like an obscure one. I like a Fun with Dick and Jane.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was like 2008 or something. I remember seeing that in theaters with my parents. Let's go with that one.
Let's do it. All right, 8%.
8%, too easy.
Character name and
title.
I like a Mr. Popper's Penguins.
I was thinking Mr. Popper's Penguins. Penguin it up. Pop me.
All right, Mr. Popper.
Captain Pop.
That's the 5%.
There's the flavor.
Do we take the guaranteed dub with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? Or do we take a chance, which I'm like 90% sure of, The Mask getting an Oscar nomination?
Nick, you're scaring me with that 90%.
I'm scared of myself, buddy. It's spooky season.
Funny thing is, it's scary season, so hit me, dog. Put in the mask.
Oh, I'm so scared.
We're all about getting scared over here.
Woo! 5%.
Oh, let's go. We still got top 3. Still got top 3.
My heart, if I would have let us down there with The Mask,
I never had a doubt. And even if I did, I had to commit to the scary bit because it is scary season. I had that cooking up, but you saw it coming.
3%. That's pretty good.
Not bad. Pretty good. Already see a couple on there for the most popular correct answers.
So our most popular for Penelope Cruz, release date was Volver. Never heard of that. Character name and title was Vicky Cristina Barcelona. Never heard of that one. And for Oscar nom, it was Vanilla Sky.
And most popular for Jake Gyllenhaal, release date, we actually have Nightcrawler.
Wow.
Character name and title, we have Donnie Darko. And Oscar nom, we have Brokeback Mountain. Ong Lee. An Ong Lee joint.
Ong Lee went from Hulk over to Brokeback Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For Jim Carrey, release date, we have Yes Man. For character name and title, Ace Ventura, the first one, Pet Detective. And Oscar nom was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I'm so happy we decided to just go rare and keep our number low for pride, baby, for pride. And we're going to go over the rarest answers.
For Penelope Cruz, for release date, we have The Good Night. For character name and title, we have Don Juan. And for Oscar nom, we have Belle Epoque. It looks like a Spanish film.
The rarest answers for Jake Gyllenhaal. Release date is going to be Proof in some brackets. Spirit Untamed for character name and title. And City Slickers for Oscar nomination. Didn't know that got an Oscar nom. Didn't know Jake Gyllenhaal was old enough to be in that.
Beats me, my friend. All right, and then to wrap it up, Jim Carrey, release date, Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues. For I don't really remember that one.
They had a big cameo fight of they redid the Anchorman fight, and they just brought in hella cameos.
That checks out. Character name and title, we have a movie called Simon Birch. And for Oscar nomination, we have Peggy Sue Got Married.
Oh, Peggy Sue got married. All right, cool. Well, hey, perfect on the board. Let's go. We thought we were going to be a little bit scary there, losing our perfect streak, but joke's on the quiz, Nick, because we are the scare.
Great quiz. Another week. I think we're into double digits on the perfect streak on the quiz, but now it's time to get extra spooky. We're going to start getting into the overview of this film we're watching. Like you said, it's from 1971. It's a made-for-TV movie called Duel, directed by our friend Steven Spielberg, definite friend of the show. Like you said in the intro, this is his first feature-length film, and then eventually catapulting him into being one of the most acclaimed directors of our time.
Yes, that's right, Nick. Just like you said, this movie really catapulted Spielberg from being a TV director into a feature film director. This movie has a similar story because it was made for TV, and it does end up getting a very limited international release as a feature film. But Steven Spielberg got his start out by getting recognized for his work on his Amblin short film. That's why his production company is called Amblin Productions, because he made a short film called Amblin. Studios recognized it, gave him props for his good work as a very young filmmaker, because he's early 20s, mid 20s at this time, and actually gets a contract. He's like the youngest director to get a contract deal with a studio to become a TV director. And obviously he's got big dreams and wants to make big movies and make feature films. So he's always looking for his big script that's going to take him from the ground level of a director to literally Spielberg status. So this movie has an interesting background here. I do see that you have a fun little fact about where this story was discovered by the studios.
Yeah, so this was written by, was it Richard Matheson, the guy who ended up writing the movie? Was this? Yeah. He didn't really have anywhere to write this and put it, so he submitted it to Playboy. And it ended up back when people would read Playboy for the content, I guess. They had a section for short stories, and so he submitted it to Playboy, and this was, a short story in a Playboy magazine.
So the script is adapted from that short story from the Playboy article from Richard Matheson, who fleshed it out for a whole screenplay. He's actually the same person who wrote the I Am Legend novel, and obviously would go on to write or at least be credited on the Will Smith 2007 I Am Legend movie. We can all thank JFK getting assassinated, because that is the day that he came up with this idea. Not necessarily related to that incident, but it was the day.
Thanks, JFK.
At least something good came out of that. Yeah, Richard Matheson, he's playing golf with his buddy. They hear the news, like JFK's been assassinated. And they're all like, oh, geez, what a bummer of a day. Kind of like, I remember when Kobe died, I was on a snowboard trip with a bunch of friends in a cabin in Big Bear. And we're all chilling on maybe Saturday, Sunday morning, forget what day it was. But we're all chilling. We hear the news. We're all having coffee. We're having Tim Tams. We're doing Tim Tam slams. I don't know if anybody knows that, but it's the little Australian chocolate covered biscuit, and you bite a corner off, you bite the other corner off, and then you use it as a straw and you suck the coffee through, and then you slam the Tim Tam back in your mouth. And it's also vivid because I just heard the news Kobe Bryant passed away, And my buddy of Sean, you met him at the wedding. He says, "Oh no, Kobe, you just ruined my Tim Tam Slam." So he ruined his very first Tim Tam Slam ever. It was a bummer. But I remember it just put a whole negative spin on the day, and we were all bummed out. We're like, well, this sucks. Like, this is the one thing I'm going to think of when I think to this snowboard trip again, is Kobe Bryant dying.
Similar story that I'll share with you. I was golfing with my little brother at a nice golf course. We were having a great time, and on the 7th fairway, I hit a nice drive, and my little brother goes, "Oh no." And I go, "What? What happened?" He goes, "I don't want to tell you. Hit your shot first." And I go, "You have to tell me. You can't say, 'Oh no,' and not tell me what's happening." And he says, "Robin Williams just died." And I said, "I don't want to play golf anymore. I want to go home and be sad." Yeah, like you said, I will forever remember that moment, just like Mr. Matheson, clearly.
Just like Mr. Matheson. Hopefully you guys didn't get chased down by a truck after you were leaving the golf course, because that's exactly what happened to Mr. Matheson and his homie. So they're already kind of rattled from the JFK news, and there's this semi-truck that's tailgating them on the way home. They drive faster. The truck drives faster behind them, and they're kind of freaking out. They're all hysterical. They're thinking, this guy's going to kill us, until finally the buddy spins off the road and truck just speeds right past them. And Richard, being a natural born writer, is like, there's an idea. I'm going to write this down on an envelope my friend's got in his car, and I want to make this into a movie. So Matheson's trying to get this shopped around. He's trying to make it a TV deal. He's like, oh, this is a great idea. The studios don't really think that. The producers don't think that. They're like, it's not really a whole lot here. I mean, it's literally a starting point. It's an idea, but there's not too much to go off of to make it a full-blown, fleshed-out story, movie, show. So the Matheson goes to the literary medium and says, well, I'm just going to write it out as a short. And a short story, and guess what? Playboy's going to publish it. And it's funny that studios are looking for content and ideas, and they denied this guy's idea because it was from his mind, and they're like, it's not fleshed out. And they read a short story, and they're like, oh, this is a pretty good idea. Let's do it. Nona Tyson is Spielberg's assistant. Yes, his assistant. He's like early mid-20s. He has an assistant, not because he wanted it. I think probably just like a contract deal or whatever. But she finds the story in the Playboy magazine. She's like, read this Playboy. And he's like, well, I'm hold on, Nona, like, let's calm down. She's like, no, the story, read the story. This is your jam. You will love this. Reads a short story and says, Nona, I need you to go out and see if there's already a script being shot for this. She does her research, and turns out ABC, Universal, they got a teleplay in the works from Richard Matheson for ABC's TV movie of the week. So Spielberg's like, I want that movie. Give me that movie. So he meets with the producer, George Eckstein. Meets with George, the producer.
Good old George.
And says, show me your latest work so I know you're the man for the job. Shows him a sample of something he was working on, and George loves it. So Spielberg is on board. He is passionate. He's like, I want this movie. Give it to me. He proves his worth, and he's going to make this ABC movie of the week, which means it has to be 74 minutes to allow for the commercials in that 90-minute window. He was given 10 days to shoot this, insisted everything be on location because he thought, if I shoot it in a soundstage, it's going to look phoned in and fake and awful and corny and stupid. So if I have my chance right here, I am going all out, and I am giving you everything I got, as from my passion to my techniques to my dedication. Here we go. So he's given this hard-nosed UPM, Wallace Worsley, and he said, you can't shoot a movie of this scale in 10 days outside.
It can't be done.
He was right, because they did end up going like 12, 13. But he kept them accountable and humble, which is what a UPM is, a unit production manager. So basically, they're the boots on the ground for the studio as far as staying on time and staying on budget. And the director, he has to basically corral the director to not go too much in a bag and do 60 shots because they didn't like the way a cup was sitting on a table. versus the studio saying, hey, studio, let the director cook. He's doing good stuff over here. So he's really just a middleman that has to balance that, the creative to the production budget side. He keeps him in line. Spielberg mapped out this movie, storyboarded it out on a big ass map that he covered his hotel room with, never left the shoot locations, never got to see the dailies. That's the footage that you shoot for the day. So he can't see like continuity stuff. He can't see minor errors. He can't see what he's doing. He just had to take the film developer's word for it that it all got developed correctly and the film made it to the developing plant and whatnot. So Spielberg, at this point, he declared himself in retrospect as not a well-known person in Hollywood, but rather just an abstract kid who had a love for dolly shots and lenses. And from this dolly shot loving, lens loving lad, his passion, ambition to make this film received critical success from its TV views, that new scenes were added to make the film 90 minutes in runtime in order for it to qualify as a feature film for a limited international release, which blessed Spielberg, technically, with his very first feature film directing job. And that is how this movie came to be.
Awesome. Good for him.
Yeah.
And good for his assistant for reading Playboy magazine and bringing him these things.
JFK and Nona Tyson are the unsung MVPs of this story. And I guess, what's his face that shot him?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
And technically Magneto, if you're into the Days of Future Past lore, because apparently he made the bullet curve.
Could be the CIA too, who knows? All right, moving on.
Nick, who is in this movie?
Well, our top billed cast technically is Dennis Weaver, Jacqueline Scott, and Eddie Firestone, but really this movie is 90% Dennis Weaver. He's our main guy here. He's the face we're following this entire film. So I'll say we really only have one star of this movie, and that is our boy, Dennis Weaver.
I'd argue to say we have 2 stars, but we'll get into that. Now, Nick, for the budget, I'm just going to take this for face value that this is correct because it's made for TV. Not a lot of information on it, but I'm looking at a number that is $450,000. Very, very, very low. Low budget.
Very low. And like you said, we talked about it is a made-for-TV movie, so we don't really have a box office. It did get that limited release, like you said, but I really couldn't find anything concrete. It may have made its money back, but the real benefit of this movie was the start of Spielberg's career. So I'm not, as far as budget and box office goes, it's pretty negligible for this movie.
Yeah, I think it's really just a feat of what it made for itself and the path it carved out for just being an ABC movie of the week. So pretty impressive. Well, I think it's time to hop in the driver's seat and unpack this puppy. Why don't you go ahead and read me this log line? Let's watch the trailer and then talk about it.
I'd love to. So our log line is: a business commuter is pursued and terrorized by the malevolent driver of a massive tractor trailer.
Would you call it a tractor trailer? I would just say like a semi-truck.
Tractor trailer is a semi, technically. Technically, they're tractor trailers.
I just think of tractors on the farm, but all right.
Yeah. Before we get into the trailer here, I just want to let my biases known. When I first read this logline, before watching this movie, I go, okay, did a little research. So we have a short story adapted with people being chased by malevolent cars. I'm thinking Maximum Overdrive.
Wait a second. Have we been here before?
Which, if you have listened to that episode, you know it is my least favorite movie I've ever seen in my life, and I'm not sure it will ever be topped.
Look out!
I was coming into this movie with that thought in mind, so that's just a heads up. But like you said, let's watch this trailer.
Watch out, Spielberg.
And let's see if this actually lives up to that terrible reputation. Whoa.
This aspect ratio. Whoa. Duel.
Wow, really, there's our boy Dennis.
James?
Okay.
It's an action-packed trailer.
So when he had his glasses on, he reminded me of a young Stan Lee, and then when he had them off, he reminded me of Burt Reynolds.
Dude, this is all action.
Come on, back in the back.
It's kind of cut a little confusing. Hey!
Duel.
I got it.
Oh man, well, that was an action-packed trailer. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
And,
a little jarring, a little all over the place, but I'll say it did a better job of not giving too much away than
no
other trailers
music,
we've seen.
no voiceover, just all action. So James, let's get into this movie.
Nick, time to enter spooky plot talk.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and open up. We have our main character here, David Mann. This is Dennis Weaver, our main protagonist. He's a salesman in LA, and he's taking a trip out to see a client, and he's going to have to leave his house. He's going to get on the road through the Mojave Desert. While he's doing this, we have a voiceover of the radio playing in the car, and it sounds like this advice show or this morning show.
Like a talk show,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, there's a woman talking about her being the head of the household, and the host of the radio show says, oh, that's embarrassing to have a woman be the head of the household. Like, you have to be a man, and you
How
should be
dare
the head, the head. And so we have this going on, and knowing Spielberg now, you didn't back then, because this is his first major, movie, or first movie in general, but he's not going to put something in there like that doesn't matter. So we're tracking that in the back of our minds and saying, okay, I think maybe our main character has some issues going on at home in his masculinity.
The whole intro is just this. It almost seems like it's a long take, but it's not. It's a long take in the beginning, backing out of the garage, driving through LA, hitting the highways. You see him hop on 101. Then you actually see him hop on Highway 14. And later on, he's going to stop off and act in California. Tough Acton's in Acton. That's where my uncle resided, rest in peace, and where I lived for 3 weeks when I was living down there, working in the movie industry. So it's very, very rural, very deserty. And once he makes it out here, we're just kind of lost in the radio show and listening to that, because the visuals would be a little bit boring without something to listen to. So it is kind of like going on a road trip. So he's going to encounter this 1955 Peterbilt 281 semi-truck, which was actually cast by Spielberg himself. They had a casting call for semi-trucks, and that was the one that had the most character. And obviously it was the most retro looking. A lot of them had the flat fronts and just kind of no features. Spielberg said this truck had a face, and it's going to be the star of Duel, essentially.
Yeah, not a Green Goblin face like Maximum Overdrive, but a normal car face.
That was so confusing. The way they had to license that from Marvel, that was weird. So before we even see the face of this truck, David Mann, with two N's, is going to get stuck behind this truck. And what do you do when you're stuck behind a slow, smelly truck? You want to pass it. So he's trying to get around it, finally passes it, and it's all quiet. There's not a lot of music. And even the score described by Spielberg and the writer, they said it's not even music. It's really just noises and sounds to instill unsettling feelings and fear. So we're just rolling in the quiet. David passes the truck. We see the truck behind him through the rear view window, and then we can see him in the mirrors. This movie's making you pay attention to mirrors and windows and like, where's that truck at right now? So then the truck blasts past him. And then this starts off a whole big episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, because David Mann and the truck driver get extremely petty to the point where they need to murder each other in this movie. This truck is just going to take it so personally. So there's a lot of awkward interactions, and that leads them to the gas station in Acton, where, again, it seems like a Curb Your Enthusiasm bit, where he passed the truck passes him. They're kind of passively aggressively pissed at each other, and they think they separated, and now that's that. Now they're at the same gas station. I'm thinking super awkward.
Yeah, and if you want it to get a little more awkward, David's going to go inside to use the phone. He's going to call his wife. He's going to say, I'm sorry about what happened the other night. We don't know what happened yet, but she divulges that they were at like a work party, and his boss coworker.
This was out of nowhere.
I think she says he practically was raping me. I'm like, whoa, David. So David wasn't sticking up for her, and this goes back to our radio show of he's not being the man right now. He's not fulfilling responsibilities. He's not standing up for himself. He's just a passive observer in his life. We did get a look at the driver, not his face. We've seen his hands and we've seen his boots. And so Spielberg's kind of letting us know that we're not going to see the face of this antagonist, which adds a little creepy factor to it.
Richard Matheson from the Jump idea. And it was written in the script that you never saw the driver's face. And Spielberg was super attracted to that, loved it, and probably took that for inspiration for a lot of his work in the future, i.e. Jaws.
I like it. The last thing we're going to find out at the gas station is the gas station attendant tells David, you have a bad radiator hose.
Looks like you could use a new radiator hose.
I'll get one later, thanks.
David says, no, it's fine. You're just trying to take me for money. But again, that's one of those things you hear in a movie and go, that's going to come up later.
Definitely coming into play later.
But we do get back on the road, and we're back to the truck, and all of a sudden we're doing a little more cat and mouse, trying to pass, not trying to pass, and it is getting dangerous. This truck is booming. This truck is going 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, passing him, not letting David pass him. And then eventually he does what I call the troll pass. He waves David around like, okay, you can pass now. And as soon as David starts to pass, there's a car coming in the opposite direction. So this truck is diabolical. This truck driver wants David to die. He was ready for an 80-mile-an-hour head-on collision to happen.
This is when I was watching this movie, and I thought, this truck driver is the definition of somebody looking for a problem. Like, he has nothing better to do than to mess with this guy. This is like the janitor and JD on wheels.
And eventually this truck is going to take it too far because he's going to run David off of the road, have him crash into a fence. But luckily that fence is outside of a diner.
Full of a bunch of small town characters. Like, y'all right over there? And he's like, truck driver tried to kill me. And they're like, all right. So he goes into, Chuck's Cafe?
Something like that, yeah. Some simple name, just Chuck's.
Chuck's Cafe, and then we're thinking, all right, because you're like, all right, like we got the initial introduction of the truck and the car, so where is this gonna hit a stopping point so that we can hit our next little movie beat here? And it's gonna be at this cafe, so we're thinking, all right, we're safe for now. There's a cool oneer from the front door going into the bathroom with David, and he kind of has like an internal monologue of, I thought he was telling a story and they were going to cut to him talking to someone at the bar, but he is kind of by himself this whole movie. So he's not even talking to anybody. The only people he talks to is the gas station attendants, his wife on the phone, and then himself. So he's talking to himself.
There's another couple. There's a few little interactions he has, but nothing meaningful.
You just never know. You just go along figuring some things don't change ever. Like being able to drive on a public highway without somebody trying to murder you.
And he's trying to reason with himself about what he just went through. And he's like, maybe we're all good. Truck driver drove away. We're good. Walks back and we see the truck is parked outside. And then you can clearly see through the restaurant window and through the truck window that the driver is not in the truck. So then he turns around. Everybody in the diner is a suspect. And I thought, yeah, let's go. This is awesome. Who done it? Who's here?
This is the best scene. This is the best scene of the movie.
I wouldn't argue that. There's a lot of expository stuff going on in this next inner monologue because he's asking all these questions that the audience was thinking. And he's saying, how does the truck stay up with me? How did it keep up? It must be all souped up. Because I had that question when you said it was going 80 miles an hour. I was thinking, how the hell is this semi-truck keeping pace with this personal car and not skipping a beat? And he says, maybe he's crazy. Maybe I'm going crazy. So this scene I thought was going to be over exposition, which it kind of is a little bit too much, but I think its purpose is more so to establish that our main character is experiencing fear and his paranoia is taking hold of his sanity. When we figure out the perp might be in this cafe, we're thinking, oh no, this is not looking good for Mr. Man over here.
No.
Spielberg, he said he had Hitchcock in his ear, in his inner brain, saying, never let the audience off the hook. Always keep them in suspense. There's this obvious suspect. Nick, did you have an idea or did you have a theory of which of the bar patrons was the suspect? Or did you think it was just not in there?
I thought he was not in there.
They land on this guy at the end. They kind of sit on him too long on the edit. And then he looks over his shoulder. I was like, all right, well, it seems like it's this guy, but it seems like it's too obvious. So then when the obvious guy leaves in a different truck, then the audience can't even do a sigh of relief. We have to go, oh shit, he's the fool still in the diner.
Spielberg hit us with the old bait and switch. Like, oh no, this guy's still here. And our character David is doing the same thing. He's freaking out. He's confronting people, talking to people, accusing people. He gets in a guy's face.
Sandwich guy.
Yeah,
sandwich truck driver is just eating a sandwich and he's like, cut it out.
Let's not play games.
What the hell are you talking about?
I can call the police.
This truck driver is not the antagonist of this film. He's just a rando guy. But I thought it was hilarious because he kind of looks like, oh shit, like he's going to call the cops. And it just made me think like all truck drivers are shady. They're all into some shady stuff. Maybe he had some like prostitution thing at the last stop.
Dude, if you just walked into a truck stop and yelled, I'm calling the cops, they'd all scatter.
Half of them would be like, not me, right?
Yeah, they all have drugs on them. They've all killed a hitchhiker or something. You know, it's not good.
Because there is that thing of worry in his eye. So I thought that's another little bait and switch. Like we think, oh, it's him. No, it's just he's a truck driver. But he gets in Fool's face, and I think he smacks a sandwich out of his hands. And then sandwich guy is throwing blows at Mr. Man. So I'm like, all right, we might have a nominee for best fighter of the movie, but we'll see. Gets broken up. He leaves in a different truck. We're seeing David go crazy on the inside. But then big bad Peterbilt, Stinky Pete Peterbilt outside starts up. So the driver was never in the diner and then drives away. Playing mind games with our man.
David, man.
Thank you. I was waiting for that.
This is going to kick off maybe 30-ish minutes, 20, 30 minutes of what I'm going to call truck shenanigans. We stumble upon a school bus with kids. They're asking for help to be pushed. This is actually really funny. David tries. His little car can't do it. They shouldn't have asked a guy in a coupe.
Big curb energy here. Because he's like, it's going to go right underneath the bumper. It's not going to work. He's like, no, it'll work. And then he fucking gets stuck.
Mr. Pfeiffer, that guy's stuck too.
Shit.
And then the truck comes back and he's like, well, look what you got me into. And then there's this whole bit of him telling the kids to get off the hood. And then he ends up just stomping on the hood to get his car free because he's so afraid of this murderous truck driver, which is very understandable.
He takes off. The truck ends up pushing the bus to safety.
So then he looks like a crazy dick.
Yeah, which is hilarious. He does end up stopping at a railroad crossing with the train passing. The truck just sneaks up on him, kisses his bumper, and starts pushing him forward. So that was a suspenseful moment. And then there's a point where the truck takes off in front of him. David slows down. He's like, okay, that truck has to be gone by now. He turns the corner, and on the side of the road, the truck's just waiting for him. I'm like, oh, this truck
is so petty. It's so funny. I was like, what is this guy's deal? Does he not have a place to be?
Yeah, but David's full paranoid, full freaking out. So we're going to stop at a roadside. Is this a gas station we stop at? But it has this exotic animal attraction lady. She stopped there, rattlesnakes, lizards, tarantulas, all that fun stuff. And he decides he's going to call the cops, but too bad. No, you're not, because this truck will not be having any of that. And he runs through the phone booth and then through all these ladies' cages, releasing all these crazy animals.
Yeah, truck driver is an extra dick because he starts taking out the snake cages. It's like, what did the animals do to you? And then this poor lady's gas station and snake stop is ruined. Super uncalled for. But like we said, truck drivers hate cops, so he sensed the cop call and he's like, nope, zeroing in on the phone booth. David Dennis Weaver doing his own stunts here in the phone booth, tumbling out the phone booth, throwing a snake cage at the truck. Wasn't going to do anything, but he did it.
The first time he
Sneaky.
fought back all movie.
Well, he was trying to confront the truck driver. There'd be multiple times when he would be walking up to the truck and then the truck would start driving away, or he'd be running at the truck and the truck would drive away. So I'm thinking truck driver's psycho, murderous, but a little bit of a ween.
Yeah, he's taunting him. He's taunting him. And that's going to happen again here. We're going to get back on the road because, of course, we are.
No way.
We're going to come up on the truck. As David moves forward, the truck chases him off. And they play this little game of chicken. And eventually, David's going to do the first smart move of this movie. He's going to head up a mountain road. He thinks, all right, this truck is not going to be able to chase me up this steep grade. My car is going to win that every single time. But, James, that radiator hose comes back into play.
10 minutes left in the movie. I thought, when is that damn radiator hose? Because he did ask Snake Lady to take a look at it, but then that all got cut short from the vehicular manslaughter attempt of the Peterbilt driver. So yeah, radiator hose starts smoking. We got extreme close-ups of Mr. Weaver via Spielberg, and there's a lot of in the car shots and windows and reflections. And I need to bring up my nitpick. Actually, I only have one nitpick.
Nitpicks.
And Nick, I don't know if you noticed this, but on multiple shots, you can see the shooting crew in the windows and the reflections.
I didn't see that.
So when you rent movies on Apple TV and it's a super old movie, maybe it doesn't have a trailer. When you select press trailer, it'll just show you a scene from the movie. So the first scene preview I got was that snake stop. And when he goes into the phone booth, there's a man clearly in the reflection. I thought that is 100% a 20-something-year-old Steven Spielberg in the reflection.
No way.
With the camera guy. And this is 100% true. And it's in the theatrical made-for-TV cut that Spielberg is just straight up just in the reflection. He's like looking down the script. He's looking up at the phone booth, making sure everything's being hit. And I just thought it was funny. And it makes sense because Spielberg couldn't leave the location to go check out the dailies to make sure, like, is my face in any of the windows? So a very small nitpick is just you kind of brush it off because it's a low budget, not amateur, but like, just
made for
shoestring budget movie. So you let those things slide. But when you see a shooting crew in the reflection, it does take you out of it.
Does. Yeah. I didn't notice that. That's a keen eye you have.
Oh, it was clear as day. I was like, that's Spielberg as a kid.
So we're back to climbing this mountain, radiator hose blown, car overheating. We get to the crest of the mountain just in time, and now we can coast downhill. And so we're flying downhill, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour down this mountain road. And eventually we're going to crash. Car is getting mangled. Truck is screaming at us. There's a sign, truck use lowest gear. Not this truck. This truck is flying.
Top gear.
And we're going to keep driving. And David finally says to himself, this is it. Like, this is where I make my stand.
This time for a duel.
David grabs his briefcase, throws it on the gas pedal. He's going to ghost ride this whip with his briefcase. And at the last minute,
pedestrians proud.
He gonna tuck and roll.
And outsmarts the truck. So I think the truck, kind of a callback to the bus, I think the truck wedges itself up on the car, which is why it can't maybe necessarily stop. It was going too fast and it was too much seeing red. Not to make a pun because the car is red, but he was seeing red and he's like, I gotta kill my mark because I'm a crazy truck driver. And then uncontrollably is gonna send off a cliff, hopefully claim another victim, but no, he's just gonna play himself. All those license plates on the front of the car, I had a thought when I was watching the movie. I was thinking, are those other motorists that he murdered and
those
took
trophies?
Like trophies? Did you think of that?
No.
Oh, I did, because it was like Montana and Texas and other states. So because why would you have all those license plates?
He's just a serial killer.
And this was later confirmed by Spielberg that, yes, those are the notches in his Colt 45. That's the equivalent of...
Wow.
Yep. So all those license plates on the front of the truck were from motorists that he murdered randomly because he's psychotic.
He ain't murdering any more motorists because he goes off that cliff That truck is mangled.
Get wrecked.
We do get a cool shot of blood dripping down the steering wheel.
I think it's oil
of the truck. Is it oil?
I thought it was blood too, just because of the imagery, but I think it was oil, but it kind of is on brand because we're talking about how much the truck is more of a presence than the actual driver because we never see it. So it's kind of like the truck is bleeding out, which is a little bit more thematically on brand.
It is. But our hero, David, can finally rest. He's finally faced his demons. He sits on the cliffside and looks over at this mangled truck. And that's our movie, James.
We hit credits, and that is Duel from 1971, directed by Steven Spielberg. Pretty fast-paced plot talk here, Nick, and I think that's because there's not really a whole lot to the movie, which makes a lot of sense because that's exactly what they told Mr. Matheson when he was trying to sell this as a story. They said there's not much here, so he wrote it as a short story. And they tried to draw out an entire 74-minute product and then stretch it out another 16 minutes for a 90-minute feature film. So, yeah, there's a lot of driving in this movie, and it kind of gets drawn out a little bit at points because you're thinking, how long can we keep doing this before something needs to happen? So I see you have a question here about all of this driving. What's up with it?
You tell me, what is up with all this? So what is the meaning of all this? So I like to think that we know that the origin of this was a real life event, right? Being tailgated by a truck, and Steven Spielberg took this short story and directed it. But I like to think this isn't just a story about a guy being chased by an insane person in a truck. So what do you think was the point of this story, of this movie?
Not to play devil's advocate, but I do think the literal point of it was just a suspense story of a guy getting chased down by a truck because that's what the writer said, and that's why Spielberg was attracted to it. But I think you can make an argument for what it does ultimately mean as a viewer. So behind the scenes, they might have just said, we're making a suspense story. This is the movie of the week. Not much to it. It's not that deep, guy. But for us critics, us fans, us moviegoers, I think there's a little bit there with the masculinity, and I've seen theories and takes on the movie about that being a theme because there was the whole head of household debate and being emasculated and push a guy into a corner. Finally, he's going to have to finally become the head of household and fight back. And same thing when he's in the cafe, he's looking at all the kind of burly, manly truck drivers who are all sitting comfortable in their own skin. He's looking like a little scared bitch in the corner, waiting for his really terrible looking sandwich that he ordered.
Awful.
So dry.
1971 sandwiches were pretty subpar.
Truck stop 71 sandwiches.
Nah.
No grill, no melted
Not
cheese.
In tough Acton.
Not in Acton. They're just like fucking right out the bag. Give me the ingredients raw. Yeah, I think the meaning is it like a cautionary tale? Is it like don't engage in road rage? Is it stand up to bullies? Is there a underlying masculinity theme? What did you think is the meaning of this?
So I went a little deeper. I don't even think Mr. Matheson and Mr. Spielberg know what they were doing, but I'll tell them exactly what's going on with this movie. So here's my theory, James, about this movie. The truck's not real.
Okay.
I don't think the truck is real. I think the truck was real for the first scene that we saw it. And then once he goes into the gas station and talks to his wife on the phone and has that awkward interaction, gets emasculated, from there on out, I'm not sure anyone else acknowledges the truck. When he crashes the first time and those simple country folk come out and talk to him, he says, that truck tried to kill me. And they look at him like he's crazy. Like we didn't see a truck, right? He goes into the cafe. The truck driver's not there. That truck driver's not real. He sees the school bus there where he's going to try and do something good, right? Because he's a good person. But what's a school bus doing out in the middle of the desert? There's no school out there. So this is all in his head.
That was weird.
And then it's weird, right? And then the last people he runs into is that couple who, when he says, call the cops, that truck over there, they're like, huh? And then when the truck comes at him, they they bounce. So nobody really acknowledges that this truck exists except for him.
What about
And
the
a lot
couple
of
that
it-
just slammed it in reverse because the truck was coming at him?
I think he imagined it like the school bus.
Oh, he imagined the people in the car?
Yeah, same with the exotic animal lady. Like, what gas station do you run up in the middle of nowhere with exotic animals and snakes and tarantulas on display when there's nobody for miles around? Like the whole thing
That's
is
a
weird.
thing. That's a thing. They're out there.
So my theory here is that none of this is real. This is all David Mann living out his fears of not being tough enough or standing up to people, and feels like he's constantly on the run from everything. And then at the end, he finally faces his fears and becomes a man again. I don't know.
So
But
where's his car?
My thing here, he drove it off a cliff. He's a crazy person.
The problem with the things not being real is that, yes, you can make an argument for it, but I think it's just not true in this case. I appreciate your conspiracy theory, and if you can flush it out to where it's airtight, then I will believe you. For the sake of my sanity and Mr. Mann's, I do think it's all real. I do think it's all actually happening to him. This is a murderous truck driver out on this road just collecting license plates like Infinity Stones.
So this guy's just evading the cops, driving like a maniac. There's a tractor trailer who can go 90, 100 miles an hour, keep up with other cars.
Yeah. Shows up around every corner, can track this guy in between hours of time. Like, something's not adding up. This is either a superhuman person or a magical semi-truck. Or, moving on to my talking point, if you want to humor me now, if this is real, let's say it is real, what the hell is this guy's problem? Does he not have a job? Does he not work for a company? Is he not late for his delivery? What is he transporting that's flammable?
I'm guessing fuel, but at the same time, that fuel tank and his truck don't look like anything from a reputable company. It looks like it's all
I think he's just
old.
A freelance, not freelance because he's not working for anybody. He's just a murderer. He's just so. Does he?
Theory.
Do you think he murders people and like takes their wallet and then funds his next random murder because he's a serial killer?
New theory. He's a hitman that the wife hired to kill her husband because she's sick and tired of him being a wuss. And she wants the insurance. Yeah. He's a hitman.
He didn't stand up for me because I got groped at the party.
That was clearly not the first time.
You're saying my guy, Mr. Mann, is a straight up cuck.
He uses the hotel chair for sure.
There it is.
And then the end of the movie, he stops being a cuck. That's what the movie's about. It's graduating from being a cuck.
The uncuckening.
Yeah, if it is real, yeah, this truck driver is an absolute psychopath. And he's just waiting for he's probably a serial killer who's waiting for the first guy to piss him off. Like in his head, he says, "Somebody give me a reason to murder you." And then once he gets his victim, it's lights out. It's like, and he taunts them. It's the cat and mouse games that he plays with them that are real sickening.
It's scary. I would say the man's scary, but we can't quite see the man behind the wheel, but we definitely see the truck. And like we were discussing, I think these cars are definitely big parts of the movie and almost characters themselves.
I noticed that from the first shot of the movie. It is a camera mounted on the front of David Mann's car as he's pulling out of his garage and onto the road. There's a lot of POVs that we have of the cars where we're seeing their point of view and not David Mann's point of view or our truck driver's point of view. So the truck really is our antagonist, like you're saying.
Like Spielberg said, the truck has a face. When cars are with you throughout the entire movie, they are honorary cast members, in my opinion, especially if they have distinct characteristics, camera shots, and precious runtime is being spent focusing on them and their actions. And yeah, you could say, well, it's just part of the action. What are you going to film? The human the entire time? No, but I think the truck itself is very menacing, has a very distinct look and sound, And even the way it was dressed, it was purposely looked as disheveled and in distress and run down and dead bugs on the front and oil. Spielberg said when Mr. Weaver was in the makeup chair, there were 6 guys out with mops just mopping on oil and dirt on the truck. The truck was also in the makeup chair. The truck is just as important as the main actor in this movie. It's the other main character.
Absolutely. And the truck looks like what I'd expect a truck driver serial killer to look like, right? Disheveled, dirty, old, greasy.
Yes.
It embodies that character.
If this was Pixar's Cars, that would be a serial killer, a highway serial killer.
It looks
Perfectly
like Tow Mater.
cast.
So what are you saying?
Well, maybe like Tow Mater's psycho uncle somewhere.
There you go.
But I'm saying it definitely is needing some rusties. I'll just leave it at that.
It do be needing that rusties.
All right, Nick. Well, with this movie, for as little of a package it came in, it did leave some big impressions with us because now it's time for our awards section. It is Mini Pops. Yes, that's right. This is our awards segment of the episode. We're going to go over some best, some worst, and I think we have a lot to work with. Nick, we're going to start out with the best weapon. What do we got?
It's the truck, my man. That thing was murderous. It was destroying property, and it was trying to kill people.
We don't have a lot of options, and I think the only thing I could think of was truck. Truck is the weapon. But staying on topic of that, you can't have a good weapon without a good fighter. Nick, who do you have as the best fighter in this movie? A little bit of a weird situation, again, with the content happening on screen.
Yeah, I was going to say truck, but if truck's the weapon, can truck be the fighter? And I know you brought up our sandwich man, so take it away. You tell me your nomination.
Yeah, because I was thinking, would the psycho truck driver be a fighter because he's the one controlling the truck? Or would it be the sandwich guy who actually did the only fist fight in the movie?
Who the hell do you think you are, narcotic? Because I'm not an actually sandwich.
All right. I'll buy another sandwich.
It's sandwich guy.
Okay. Sandwich truck driver on the side of the road. Best fighter of Duel.
I want to see him in the bracket. That's all I'm saying.
He'll be out there.
I want him in the bracket.
He'll be out there.
All right,
He's
James,
good.
who's your most valuable character of this movie?
Nick, this movie features a man with pretty much 90% of speaking dialogue. He's the only guy for the job. That would be Mr. Dennis Weaver. But I don't think a human can win this award for this movie. Best character, most valuable character is that Stinky Pete Peterbilt from 1955, a 281 edition. I think it's so imposing, so iconic. If you were to say Duel, and if you've seen Duel, you're thinking of that creepy brown oil rusty ass psycho truck.
It's truck. It's the truck. There's no
truck.
two ways about it. It's truck.
It's truck.
MVC of this movie is truck. And James, let's dive into the biggest piece of shit of this movie.
Okay. Truck driver. The psycho truck driver who murders people because he doesn't like them. I think that's a pretty big piece of shit thing to do.
It's big piece of shit vibes. Yeah, truck driver. Truck driver.
Not much to it on this one. There's no like, oh, this guy like didn't help out the kids on the side of the... No. This guy who uses his semi-truck, who is not working for a reputable company and is just out here murdering. Hide your kids, hide your wives, hide your cars. Because he's out here
a truck.
running everybody off the road and collecting license plates.
Easily.
Truck driver. Unknown truck driver is the biggest piece of shit easily from Duel. Not even question.
Yeah. Psychopath.
All right, Nick. Well, that's our awards. A lot of truck sweeping the awards. Almost could get all of it, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, it is a piece of machinery, so can't take the human awards away from the humans. But I think it could have if it was a human spirit. So let's wrap up this puppy with our sarcastic selling points. I'm going to go first. There's a little movie with Paul Walker and Steve Zahn from 2001 called Joyride, which is about a truck that terrorizes them on the road via a ham radio. And I thought that Joyride was definitely inspired by Steven Spielberg's Duel. So My sarcastic selling point is Joyride meets Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I like that. Mine was simply just Maximum Overdrive done right.
Yep, there it is.
Final review. Fight.
All right, final review time. Let's see what the other guys are saying about Duel, and we'll get into what we think. Starting out with Rotten Tomatoes, critics, 89% of the critics are going to give this a 70%.
They loved it. And our people on Rotten Tomatoes have this at an 84%. So high praise for a TV movie.
Okay, not bad. We're going to move on over, shift gears, truck style, to Metacritic. Critics are going to hit it with a 81, which is going to translate to an 8.1 on the candy corn scale because it's October.
And we're going gradually down a little bit, and our people of Metacritic have it at a 7.8.
And now for our Psycho Truckin',
David Man Cuckin',
Road Rage Fuel Dual Score from IMDb, a 7.6. Woo! My gosh. How do we do this?
We're dueling.
Week after week. We big dueled on that. Well, that's what the other guys think. Nick, it is your turn. Please hit me with a laughable log line first. Some candy corn points because it's October. Ooh. And your final thoughts on this movie.
So my laughable log line is very simple, like the plot of this movie. It is a man in a truck drives another man insane. And for me, James, this is a 6.1. So don't love it as much as the critics, don't love it as much as the audience of Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes, but this is still a fresh popped bag of popcorn. My issues with the movie are, and maybe this is the Maximum Overdrive bias, I don't know what it is. It's hard to stretch a short story out over a 90-minute runtime. So I felt like there was some dead space. There were some repetitive actions. There's only so much you can do with it. The positives are, for a made-for-TV movie, it's about as good as you're going to do for a made-for-TV movie. So I feel like your max score you could have got with the content was like a 6.5. So you did the best you could with it. Spielberg did great. I did love the camera shots. It felt a little Mad Maxy in some of these chase scenes with cameras on the wheel wells, front of the car. I loved some of the choices to not have intense music playing, just a lot of those car sounds, chase sounds. It did get my blood pressure up in a few places. So the action scenes, the scenes where things were happening, I really enjoyed. I thought this was a really good movie for what it is, which is a made-for-TV movie. But unfortunately, I don't think the subject matter warranted 90 minutes. So that we talked about it before. Like, you never want to have a movie where you're looking down at your phone a little bit or wondering, like, how far into this are we? How much more do we have? So I felt like I did run into that a little bit with this film, but a 6.1 is still pretty darn good in my book for what it is. I don't want anybody thinking like, oh, that's not a great score. It's still a movie worth watching. It's an unknown movie. And like you said, it's so important for Steven Spielberg's career. So if you haven't watched this movie, highly recommend going and watching it at least once. So it's a 6.1 from me, but not a bad 6.1. You know, there's some movies that have a huge budget and a big cast, and a 6.1 is really an indictment of it. This is a good 6.1. Like, this could have easily been a 2. And the talent of the director and the editing and everything else brought it up to a 6.1 for me. So that's where I landed. What about you, buddy? I want to hear I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on this one, because it could range anywhere from a 1 to a 9.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it'd be on those extremes, but here we go. My laughable log line is: a motorist passes a truck on the highway, and the truck takes it way too personally, so he decides to murder the motorist. Nick, I'm going to give this a 6.7. 6.7 here. I think it's a hell of a job for what it was, and for who was involved. You know, 20-something filmmaker at the helm of a 10-day shoot. You know, like you said, great cinematography. I discovered they actually brought in the same camera car they used on Steve McQueen's Bullet to get those high chase shots and camera cranes like right up on the cars' grills and really characterize the cars, as we were saying. I think might have been Roger Ebert that said this. He said it's a modest masterpiece. And I think that's a really good way to put it, because I think for what it was, they really, really milked every single penny they had from the budget and made something that enticed viewers and kept people on the edge of their seats. My wife was studying and doing homework. And usually when I put on these movies that we watch for the podcast, she will look up for 2 minutes and be like, I'm going to leave the room. This is, no, I'm not watching this. I'm not watching Cruel. I'm not watching The Adventures of Pluto Nash. I'm out. Or sometimes she'll just keep on studying. This one, she was looking up like every 10 seconds, like, what's happening here? What's going to happen? And then she basically put down the iPad. She's like, what's going to happen? Like, what's up with this truck driver? So I think for what the movie is, it does a lot better in short format, whether that be a literature piece or a short for a film. You had to stretch it out to 74 minutes for the made for TV part. And then you stretched it another 16 for the 90. Pretty tough when there's not a whole lot there, because like you said, with the phone thing, the phone test, failed the phone test because I would look down my phone and it almost became like a running funny bit that he would round the corner and this truck is still waiting for him. And then he gives him the little wave out the window. I'm like, this fucking guy is still out here. It almost became comical, and the suspense was, or the fear, I should say, was losing me in that regard, because I'm thinking, how many times can we go through the same rigmarole? And I don't throw out the word rigmarole a whole lot, but it's a little bit of a rigmarole situation. And I just think Spielberg, for insisting to shooting everything on location, only going over by 2-3 shooting days, his obsessive nature to deliver a good product is the difference maker from this to a Maximum Overdrive. Because Maximum Overdrive was a real movie, quote unquote, that Stephen King wanted to make. But he was coked out and drunk, and Steven Spielberg was young and hungry and said, I care about this, and this speaks to me, and I want to make a good movie. I want the audience to be engaged. So I thought the use of suspense was fantastic. I thought the camera shots were of theatrical caliber, and I just thought the visual storytelling was really good. And it was a lot of Mad Max vibes, for sure. More Mad Max than Maximum Overdrive, which is, I think, where you want to be. So, yeah, not much to it. I can see why it couldn't get sold off to a studio off the bat. It had to be discovered in a medium where it would shine the brightest, which is in short format. And then, studios are going to studio and be like, we need a movie of the week. What do we got? Playboy? Let's take a stab at it. Story is what's going to be a big score carrier for me. I don't think there's a whole lot of story here. You can dig up themes and make up your own theories. But all in all, I thought this was a very entertaining movie. It kept me very suspended on the edge of my seat. And I think it at least has a wrap up that everyone's cool with, because main bad guy dies and we just kind of end it there. We're not saying, did he make that sales pitch meeting? Did he go home to his wife and get uncucked? I don't know. It was all about the duel, and whether it's real or if it's all in his head. If the duel is with this rando guy he had to out macho to be a man, Mr. David Man, or if it was all in his head and he just had to out macho man his own self-doubt, I think there's something there to enjoy. And if you haven't seen this movie, I say you should watch it.
Absolutely. I think two things I want to say. One, I just could not echo your point any further of juxtaposing this with Maximum Overdrive, right? This is how you do it. This is how you take a short story and extend it. Even if it was a little too much, this was, I think, the best they could have done to make it 90 minutes, right? It was entertaining the whole way through for the most part. And then what you said there in the middle, which is this is an exercise in show, don't tell, because there's maybe 5 pages of dialogue, this whole movie. And the rest of it is the audience being able to follow the story with the cinematography and the intensity in the shots. So yeah, completely agree with you. And James, I got to say, I don't know if we're just rubbing up on each other or rubbing off on each other, however you
Don't tell my wife.
But I feel like this season our scores are constantly within, 5, 6, 7 decimal points of each other. I feel like we're watching these movies and we're really starting to get a little simpatico here, which I don't know if I like that because I like the juxtaposition of our
I think it's healthy to have both.
But yeah.
Could beat our close margin of Maximum Overdrive because you gave that a 0 and I think I gave it a 0.5.
Well, we do love bad movies together, so. But anyway, that was Duel. Not a bad movie. A good one.
Thanks for dueling with me, Nick. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for watching. We love this, and we're going to be back next week. So thanks for listening. Please follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Just Play It Podcast. Please follow us on XFKA Twitter at Just Play It Pod. And you're going to want to tune in next week because, Nick, we actually are going to be watching a modern horror movie, but we don't know what it is yet. And I think we are going to do a live coin flip.
Ooh.
I got the pirate coin. But what are we watching, Nick?
So our two options for next week's podcast are either It Follows or Jordan Peele's Nope.
Now, have you seen either of those?
I've not. I actually wanted to land on Nope because I never got around to seeing that, but I always did want to check it out. So
yeah, Nope was one that I was interested in. However, It Follows, I have heard, is very scary. So that would be an actual scary movie. So,
all right,
Nick, with the game on the line, what do we gotta call heads? What do we gotta call tails? Which movie is head? Which movie is tails?
It Follows will be heads, and Nope will be tails.
Now, do you do the thing where you catch it and then you do the little flip with the hand?
Yeah. You gotta put it on top of your hand. Yeah.
Okay, Nick. It Follows is heads. Nope is tails. I'm flipping it. Live on the recording.
Reveal.
Oh, it's heads.
What? It's heads. It Follows is going to be our podcast.
My
movie
God.
for next week.
Jesus Christ. I'm falling apart over here.
Let's get spooky. You're already feeling the terror of It Follows, I feel like.
My God. We're about to It Follows it next week. And thank you for following us. And remember, if you're getting followed on the road, don't engage because you're going to end up in a sandwich fight at Chuck's Cafe. Just get out of there and make your meeting. Signing off. Out of here, you cuck.
I'm your worst nightmare.
Does he not have a job?
He uses the hotel chair.